What's up, everyone? This is Ignatius, and tonight I am bringing to you a build update on the Shield Crush Delving Juggernaut. Now, ordinarily, if I was a full-time creator, this would be my day 4/day 5 update officially. However, I have a full-time job, 3 little kids. I love my family. PoE does come last in the order of all things. So this kind of feels like a day 2, 3-ish update where I'm playing full time, and it is a little bit overdue. Real life has really, gotten down on me in the last couple of days, just getting in the way of PoE stuff, of course. However, I think I've gotten the build to, the quote unquote late mapping, or I'm calling like 300 depth delving version. It looks a little different than what I had anticipated in Mobalytics. And I want to talk about that and why. In this video, so in Discord, I see lots and lots of questions. Lots of people dropping their POBs. What's wrong? Of course, some positive things too. Build's amazing. Everything's working out great. The variant's awesome. A mixed bag, right? However, in the people who are asking questions or trying to understand what they are doing wrong, I'm seeing like some consistent mistakes. And they generally revolve around not understanding how the interactions in the build work. And the huge problem with that is not just like patching up the big mistakes, but it's not realizing how the build is scaling what it does, like in a fundamental way. So this video is going to be quite a bit longer than I would normally like a video like this to be, just like a build update. And that is because I'm going to go into every single item and what it's doing. I'm going to go into every single significant passive node and what it is doing. And I'm going to go into every single gem link and explain why the decisions for those gem links are the way they are. If you watch the whole thing, you will certainly learn something. If you're actually not super familiar with how PoE 1 builds work or how this build works, you will learn a ton if you watch the whole thing. And I totally won't blame you if you don't watch the whole thing and just try and jump around. But I do want to say that I'm going to go through everything. And I have in my mind and here on my desk how I want to go through it all. And I do think it will be very helpful for anybody who wants to take the time to understand the build more intricately. And it'll especially help you scale into like the final form version that's going to go deep delve. And yeah, I think it will be helpful for anyone who can stick around and watch some of it. And of course, I invite your comments, feedback, and suggestions in the YouTube comments, and of course in Discord. All right, so let's jump right in. I think the place that makes the most sense to start is with the skill gems. And I think the best way to see these links is right here in the PoE Ninja export from a POB. Just very quickly, let's look at the POB, and you can see where my numbers are at, where my calcs are at, and why they are that way, and you can maybe benchmark and compare them against yours. So the two numbers you really care about when you're comparing builds, one is this combined DPS, or some people will tally it up down here by including skills in full DPS. So that'll come down here. So that's one number you care about. How much damage is this doing? Now, in this build, the websites like PoE Ninja are going to represent the DPS basically as half of what it really is most of the time, because Shield Crush has these overlapping waves that I've talked about in every video. So if the projectile from the shield is hitting just one target with the 3 beams, so you can see that there's 3 beams that go outward. If it targets at the end of this middle beam, for instance, they are only getting hit with 1, and so they're at 5.7 mil. However, the AoE is scaled, and the overlap here is pretty decent, and especially on single target, the 2 overlapping waves almost always are applying. Our AoE radius is almost 4 meters. So we're going to say we're double that with the 2 overlapping waves. So that's number one that you care about. What is the combined DPS? 11 mil. Now, if you go to a Shield Crush build that's of another variant, there's some on Slayer, there's some on Inquisitor, their DPS is going to be higher, and that is because they are probably not intending to go deep delve with Shield Crush. We sacrifice tons of damage to help with this number right here, which is the second number you care about, which is effective hit pool. We are at 160,952. We hope to get this up to about 240 by the time we start going a lot deeper. As far as my configuration, so in POB, I can do all sorts of things here that mess with the numbers over here, and it's important that I'm honest. So you can see what I've plugged in. I've even got myself in sand stance, whereas if I went blood stance, my DPS goes up 3 mil. I am usually in sand stance. For pride, we're just showing initial effect, but if we went max effect, we get more DPS. So we're trying to be, as honest as possible with all of these numbers. I don't think I did anything in here that was unusual or not almost always applying in the combats that I'm in. Potentially the only debatable one is this Soul Leader stacks from Soul Ascension. But, this goes up to 45. It's sometimes as low as 5 or 2. I just did 10 as like a low average, like a low honest average for what it's at. All right, so that's where we're at. 11.5 mil DPS. 160k effective hit pool. How are we doing that? How did we get there? So the first thing we'll go over is gem links. The Shield Crush link up is pretty straightforward. As soon as you switch to Brutality, you no longer have elemental damage and you no longer have chaos damage. And that's really important to realize. I do see some POBs where it seems like people are still scaling like, cold damage to attacks, which used to matter, or percent fire damage, which used to matter with the Herald of Ash stuff. None of that matters anymore. We only deal fizz because of Brutality. And then we have Endurance Charge on melee stun, which is another one that's important to call out. The only thing we care about here is that first line, which is the 4% more damage per Endurance Charge. So as your Endurance Charges continue to increase in number, this gem is getting stronger, and it actually isn't getting stronger by way of anything else. Like, it's been the same since it was level 1 in terms of the power that it's adding. Multi-strike, this gem, if you don't know, gives us 3 attacks in a row. This allows us to only cast our skill once, and we get 3 hits. 1, 2, 3. It also auto-targets. This is the skill that makes it so that when you get into a delve event, you literally can just hold here, and the skill will auto-target enemies around the primary place where you are aiming. And then I think, melee fizz, pretty straightforward. And then Impale is another effect that we are adding across the build to get more DPS. You can see that a little less than half of our DPS is coming from Impale DPS. I recommend you read about Impale on the PoE wiki. I have multiple times. I still don't feel like I fully, by memory, know exactly what it is doing. It talks a lot about unmitigated damage versus mitigated damage and reflected damage. But the long story short is, every time you hit a minion, you have a chance to impale them. And so as you start attacking faster, you are stacking Impale more frequently. And ultimately, I'm at 92%. I want this to be at 100. All hits should be impaling when we get into like an ultimate form of the build. So that's important to realize, I think, as well. So that's the Shield Crush linkage. The next thing I'll say about it is the level of Shield Crush. So if we go to PoEDB, we type in Shield Crush, and we look at the numbers for Shield Crush, you can see that, at level 1, we add 4 to 6 offhand fizz per, armor evasion on our shield. That's the base. And then we have an additional per armor evasion on our shield. And then we also have meters to radius. So this is the base AoE that we were talking about for the overlapping waves and the distance that it shoots, like how far away it goes. This is the base that all of our AoE scaling keys off of. And the reason all that is important as a preface is that you'll notice down here at level 24 of the skill, we hit this big breakpoint. Look, it's 812 and 0.6 all through here. And then it's 812 and 0.7 all through here. And then at level 24, it is 1015 and 0.8. And then level 25 does nothing. Level 26 does nothing. Basically, you get a little bit more in the base. But as far as our scaling, we get nothing. And then if for some reason we got to level 27, we hit a new AoE breakpoint. But we don't realistically hit another significant damage breakpoint until maybe you get out here to 34, which isn't going to happen. So 24 is a big number. And it's a big number for 2 reasons. One is that we get there by way of an item. You can run the amulet for a +3. There's also a pair of gloves that'll give you +3 global to melee skills, and then a level 21 gem. And if you don't have the 21 gem and a +3, you are missing out on massive amounts of damage and AoE scaling by not being at 24. It's worth mentioning at this time that in the final form variant, we will switch up the amulet for the build. We'll end up going with the Defiance of Destiny. When we do that, we're going to lose the +3 to skills, which is fine because we're going deep delve. All we care about is surviving. That's sort of the more primary concern. If we can't survive, what's the point of damage? Once we lose that, we're not going to care about this whole range right here, and we're going to stick with a level 20 gem, and we're going to use the imbuing power coin from the new League mechanic to try and socket a 7th link into the Shield Crush. I am hoping to hit Endurance Charge on melee stun because you get the 4% more no matter what. But there's a lot of good secondary ones if it takes a while to get that one. But that one is kind of like the most ideal. Okay, so we're 11 minutes in and we've talked about this linkage elaborately. Let's keep going. So next I want to talk about your reservation gems. And I tried to line it up right here so that it was very clear what I've found to be most important. Arctic Armor, Pride, Determination, and Flesh and Stone. Essentially, Flesh and Stone, Determination, and Arctic Armor are all defensive mechanics. Arctic Armor is providing us with freeze immune and a huge damage reduction. Flesh and Stone we're keeping in sand stance, so once again, we're getting a lot of damage reduction. And then Determination is scaling our armor. We're always at 90 DR, but we're going to switch to Replica Dream Feather, which is going to give us damage per armor. And also on our Ascendancy node, we are routing chaos damage through armor. So armor's helpful defensively to a certain extent, and then ultimately we're just scaling armor to get more damage out of our Replica Dream Feather. This mod at the bottom does apply to the offhand attack. So I've bounced around with different auras throughout the life cycle of the build and had a totally different set for the pre-late mapping variant. But once you get into this wheelhouse, get right here with these gems. The reservation efficiency with these gems gets tricky, and you do have to sacrifice some nodes on the tree unless you can afford a really good Enlighten. You can see that I am still dirt poor. I only have a level 2 Enlighten. Hope to get it to level 3. That's going to help my pool a bit. And then when you get to a level 4, you can do a lot with the tree. Right now we currently can't because it's just not quite ideal. Worth mentioning as well that on items, we have mana res efficiency of skills right here, 8%. And that is a greater eater implicit that I just threw on there. It's very cheap. We also have 5% here on the neck. This can go up to 10. I wish I could re-roll it, but I'm just too poor. And then on your basic jewels, you can hit mana res efficiency. I don't have it on any of mine, but if you're really struggling to get those 4 auras in, the basic jewels is another place where I think you can get 3% per jewel. Technically, you can hit them on the unique jewels as well, but it's quite difficult, quite rare, and usually pretty expensive. So that's going on there. Where we can scale the level of these gems, it's very good, especially Determination. Determination has a more modifier to armor on the gem that goes up with level. So very helpful if you can scale the level of that. I did go out and buy a 21, which got me to the 50%. Last thing I'll mention is that Flesh and Stone, we've got these stances going on with these gems. Generally, Sand stance is defensive and Blood stance is offensive. There is some, niche situations there with the AoE and Blood and Sand. But for this purpose, always leave it in Sand unless you're like in a single target situation and you just need to pump some more damage. I leave it on my bar and I do switch to Blood if I need to pump some, and then I come back to Sand. Okay, next 2 links to talk about. They're both kind of like auto-target type links, so I'll talk about them together. The first is this cast when damage taken, life tap Molten Shell. Molten Shell is just, giving us a nice defensive layer. It allows us to take, 5 what is it, 5,000 damage? Yeah, 5,000 damage, you know, pre my pool. So before energy shield and before life. And it also grants a little armor boost, so it gives us a little bit more damage ourselves. One thing that's important to mention is that cast when damage taken has this line. If you look at the first line that's in blue there, this gem can only support skill gems requiring level 70 or lower. So if the gem that you're trying to trigger is higher than the level that is permitted by your cast when damage taken, it just doesn't work. And you probably won't notice that it doesn't work if you didn't notice that this interaction was here. I call that out because I did see several POBs where that was going on, and somebody's obviously missing like a big defensive layer when that's going on. The other sort of auto thing that's going on is mark on hit, Assassin's Mark, life tab. I think this one again is like pretty self-explanatory. We use Assassin's Mark to generate power charges. You do want to get it to 20 quality because this allows you to generate power charge on hit so that it works on bosses. And again, mark on hit you want to quality because it's going to increase the effect of the marks with the quality on mark on hit. Life tap just lets us pay it with life rather than mana, so it's not sucking our mana pool or not triggering because we didn't have enough mana. And then lastly, an enhanced support, which is actually a pretty cheap gem so far this league, is going to buff both the Assassin's Mark and the mark on hit. I thought so. Maybe not the mark on hit. Support skill gems. Interesting. 16 quality from support. How does that work? Because this is the support. Maybe just borrowing this over here or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, I digress. An enhance is good here. It's bringing that cursed enemies have a % chance to get a power charge and hit from 5 to 9, which is almost double, and that's a big deal in a single target, combat situation. The shield charge and frost blinks, nothing confusing there. Hopefully that makes perfect sense. If you do set your mana up correctly, your shield charge can cost just 1 life, like mine here. I like this because you sometimes get those aura monsters that drain your mana completely, and you can use a shield charge to then leech a little bit of mana back so that you can get back in combat mode. So that's something that I wanted to mention. And then lastly, we have Arrogance, Precision, and Blood Rage. Originally, I had Arctic Armor in this setup, but I didn't have it linked, but it was linked in my guide. So people were using Arrogance and Arctic Armor, and I apologize if I led you to do that. I did not mean to, and that was wrong. This will help clean things up. I've put Arctic Armor over here, Flesh and Stone here, and no other auras are here. Now, precision is very important. As soon as we move away from the precise technique-oriented build, we need accuracy, and you want your chances to hit on your tooltip to be 100 and 100 no matter what. We also continue to retain Undeniable, which is giving us attack speed per accuracy, and then precision also is giving us increased crit hit chance. So it's doing a lot of stuff for the cost of 330 reserved life, which is almost nothing. And then lastly, I'll talk about Blood Rage. I did just add this to the build. So you turn Blood Rage on and lots of cool things happen. The first one is you'll immediately go up to maxed Frenzy charges, which on my loadout is 4. And that's a lot more damage. It's a lot more attack speed. But you'll also have an inherent fizz damage leached as life and attack speed buff going on. Now, one of the reasons I don't like Blood Rage is part of our effective hit pool is, energy shield from our shield. We don't really try to invest in it, but it just turns out that we have almost 2k energy shield. And you can see that with the way that Emperor's Vigilance works with Glancing Blows. Glancing Blows is this thing that doubles our block rate, but makes all of our blocks still give us damage. Well, the downside on the shield is that damage taken from block hits cannot bypass energy shield, and then damage from unblocked hits always bypasses energy shield. So this is why you'll see both of your pools going down at the same time. You can actually use this to your advantage. We use Divine Shield, which regenerates our energy shield per second when we mitigate fizz damage. And then we also have Leech going on in multiple places in the build. So you can recover both sets of your effective hit pool as long as you have them. And this brings me to why I don't like Blood Rage. When we turn it on, watch our energy shield. Now our life regeneration is fast enough that that pool is going to be just fine, but the energy shield has no inherent recharge or recoup or leech. And so when you decide to use Blood Rage, you're just pretty much deciding to be on 0 energy shield. And that's really a bummer in my opinion. So I've held out on using it. However, the frenzy charges are so awesome that I do toggle it on at times. You also can't turn it off unless you unsocket it and resocket it. You know, some of the buffs you can control click them, like shrines, and turn them off, but Blood Rage you cannot. And so as soon as you activate it, you're stuck with it. It also refreshes when you kill an enemy. So sometimes it just stays on, like for, you know, an entire delve session, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just deciding, oh, I'm going to throw away 2,000 hit points of my pool. That's a lot. So tread carefully with Blood Rage. It is in the build now, and you've been warned. All right, I think that is all the gems, and I hope that something in there was helpful and was something that you could learn from. Now, let's go on to items. The first thing I'll talk about is the interactions with endurance charges in this build. So if for some reason you didn't know, an endurance charge grants you like a general reduction of damage. Let me actually pull it up in the PoEDB so we can look at it. I believe it is 4% Fizz and 4% Elemental. There it is. So 4% to all elemental resistances. That's not what I was thinking. Additional Fizz damage reduction per endurance charge. Why? Hang on one second. Where do you see in the game what endurance charges do? Pull that off. No? Yikes. What am I doing wrong here? Here, we'll go to the wiki. Somewhere I've seen a clearly described situation. Oh, there it is. Okay. Endurance charge. Players gain additional Fizz and LE damage reduction for each endurance charge they have. 4% additional Fizz, 4% additional Elemental per charge. Now, we have 8 in this loadout, and because of Unrelenting, it's not just 4 and 4, it's 5 and 5. So that is where Jug really gets so defensive. We're eventually going to have 11 endurance charges. So that's going to be 55 of each additional reduction. That is crazy amounts of reduction. Now, I'm actually not savvy enough to talk about how mitigation works in PoE. It goes through a number of layers, and this layer is in there somewhere. But what I do know is that a lot of times players don't realize how Juggernaut is so tanky, and this is the core reason. This is the core interaction that makes Juggernaut so crazy. So we use endurance charges for all sorts of things across the build. Of course, it is in the Ascendancy. When I switch to mapping for a reasonable duration, I will unspec Unbreakable and this node, and I'll come over here and get Unyielding, which gives us damage and AoE per endurance charge. It's really nice quality of life for mapping, but of course I don't recommend it for Delve, where you really, really need defenses. So here's the interaction that merits some explanation, because some people screw this up in 2 different ways. Arn's Anguish is a belt which converts our max endurance charges to max brutal charges. Now, a brutal charge gives us a chance to deal triple damage, which is absolutely crazy. And we are going to have 8 of them, and later we're going to have 11 of them. So that's going to be a 33% chance to deal triple damage. Now, this is an unbelievable amount of damage. Let me see if I can turn the brutal charges off. Where are they? Oh gosh, I shouldn't waste your time looking for them. Anyway, in POB, there's somewhere that we would be able to turn these off and see exactly how much damage is actually adding. There we go. That'll do it. So without the brutal charges, we are at 7.6, and with them, we are at 11.4. Now, here's the catch. If you wear this belt and you don't have Relic Cache boots, or you have the wrong Relic Cache boots, which I saw twice today in POBs and Discord, you remove your endurance charges from the build. And I don't want to belabor the point. It's a very simple interaction once you realize it's happening. This thing steals your endurance charges, and then this thing sort of cheats that stealing mechanic by just saying you count as having maximum number. And you'll see it over here. It'll still say 8 out of 8 if it's working. So that's kind of the key interactions going on there, and a lot of people have kind of scuffed that interaction and pretty much bricked their build for Delve when they do that. Anywhere you can get plus to max endurance charges, you're getting the endurance charge bonus and the brutal charge bonus. We're going to end up getting 2 more on rings, and hopefully one day a brilliantly expensive implicit on the boots for another plus to max endurance charge. All right, so that's the endurance charge interaction of those 2 items. We've talked about Emperor's Vigilance and what Glancing Blows does. It is worth mentioning on Emperor's Vigilance that the implicit values on your shield matter. So if you look up, I can't actually move my mouse over there, but if you look up at armor and energy shield where mine says 167 and 35, that is a perfectly rolled implicit. You may have one that is terribly rolled, like a 146. That's the base for the scaling of your armor on this shield. So where mine goes up to 2204, yours, wouldn't get that close. And you can fix this with a currency that isn't used very often, but this randomizes. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong currency. Sacred Orb. Is it Sacred Orb? Forgive me, everyone. It's late. I just finished a long day. Randomize the numeric values of base defenses on an armor. I don't know what these cost right now, but when you get into your, this is my final Emperor's Vigilance I'm going to wear, make sure to fix your implicit values. And while you're at it, you can fix the chance to block spell damage on your final form as well, because a Divine Orb can only change that modifier. The other ones, cannot be altered by a Divine Orb. So you can eventually fix that one to make perfect spell block as well. Okay, for right now, the rings are only doing 2 things. They are solving res, and we are making sure there is an empty prefix so that we can craft non-channeling skills, have -7 to mana cost. I also wanted to say a little bit about shopping for some of these items in this video, because if you're still here 27 minutes in, these types of things can be really, really helpful. Here's how I search for rings when I need to, make changes or make them better. Here, let me actually start a fresh one. All right, so as far as gathering, the resist that you want for a ring, you can use something called a weighted sum and add the different resist types and basically punch in the number that you want them to add up to, right? A weighted sum, not super confusing. I prefer to go with counts and do these pseudo numbers. So we're going to say it needs to have at least 2 that are at 30. And then chaos res is always required. We'll go 25. And usually dexterity is a problem, so we'll try and get 20 dex. Now, if we search just this ring, it's really, really cheap. Not too bad, right? However, we want to put on the non-channeling skills, has less mana cost. And that is a prefix. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we need a count. And it needs to either be an empty prefix or it needs to be a crafted prefix. If you want to get even fancier, you might say that the crafted prefix cannot be, some mod that you don't want have to remove in order to craft the mod that you want. But if we put a 1 here and say our ring needs to have one of these 2 things, so that way we can put the non-channeling skills on there, now we're at 70. And you can see this is a solid ring. We've got fire and cold, we've got 15 all, we got 29 chaos. Here's the crafted prefix, so we would take this over to the crafting bench in our hideout and we would throw the non-channeling skills on there. Another thing that's really great on these rings, which would make it so that you have basically no dead mods, but you would want a max life modifier, and then you would say that it cannot be crafted life. If we say all of that, we find our perfect ring. or, close to it. Some of these max life modifiers are probably not going to be very high. But here we are at 2 div, and it actually has everything that we want. And they all already have the non-channeling skills craft because it's kind of the best one. Now, I wouldn't recommend spending 2 div on these rings because what we want eventually is the Endurance Charge Implicit ring, which right now for just the base is like 21 divs. So we're too poor for that. But there's the rings. Okay. Replica Dream Feather, pretty simple. This thing is very cheap so far this league, or at least it has been the 2 times that I have bought one. I will say one thing about it, and that is that if you buy a corrupted one, actually I'll say 3 things about it, sorry. If you buy a corrupted one, you have a more difficult time re-rolling the colors of the sockets, but you still can. It's not the end of the world. A lot of new players don't realize that. Also realize there is a base armor affix on this, which is not nothing because we're going to scale armor. And then you have an implicit here, which is kind of useless as soon as you hit the 100%. There's a little bit of attack speed value add for undeniable, but when you compare it against the fact that it can roll melee hits, have a chance to fortify, that is huge. Because without this fortification implicit, we have to use 5 points right here for fort. Now, they're not a waste because you get the regen % life per fort, which we may want back eventually anyway one day. There's a couple ways we might get there. But for right now, saving 5 points on the tree by adding this implicit here is a big deal. So again, to search this, we would say melee hits fortify, and we want to find the implicit for that. And then we'll go with the armor value and get kind of greedy. We're going to say it needs to have 195 armor. And we'll search this. And look at that. Look how cheap it is. We'll click here to sort to 15%. 40 chaos for the perfect replica Dream Feather. Actually, that's really cheap right now. The next ones are, they're not that much more. Also know that to roll the sockets you want on here, you don't need tainted currency. You can go to your bench, and your bench will use vol orbs to essentially function as, the same modifiers for those currency types, but for a corrupted item. Okay, that is the Dream Feather. Next, we'll talk about the gloves, and then we'll talk about just the 2 rare pieces, and that shouldn't take much time. Those are pretty straightforward. All right, the glove slots. Soul Ascension. These gloves are really cool. Basically, what they allow us to do in Delve is get an incredible amount of attack speed and more damage by eating souls, quote unquote, from rare and unique enemies whenever we hit them, and we can get 2 of these charges per second. There is a variable roll on these gloves that is not very obvious, and it is that max number of eaten souls. I wouldn't get too hung up on that roll. I'm not totally sure what the breakpoints are for Soul Eater, but as soon as I have about 20 souls, my character is popping off like in a way that's like visually, there's no distinction between 20 and 45. Now, if we come in here into POB and we say we have 45 stacks, you will see that it goes up to 18 mil. And it's giving us 5% attack speed and then character size per stack. So it's huge gains. But you can see that like from 10 to 20, we go up 2 mil. But from 0 to 10, it's like almost nothing. So hitting that 10 to 20 breakpoint is like the huge, shift in what your character looks like. Now, these gloves are not required, and honestly, for me, they're still kind of on the fence. I think the reason they might really shine in Delve is for the big single target bosses. When we get into deep Delve, we will never stop eating souls from those bosses, and so we will be massively beefed for those bosses. However, you could just throw a pair of these on. Like, you're in deep Delve, you're clearly like a total degenerate, Delve person. It's not beyond such a person, hopefully myself, in a few weeks, to just swap gloves when you get in the situation where that's really important. There's a lot of other good things you can do with the glove slot on this build, including just like getting +1 max all res for having armor on your main 4 pieces. There's also another pair of gloves that I've experimented with this season that have been really good, and that is Hemophilia. This gives us an explode mechanism. Explode mechanisms in PoE are awesome. All enemies that we bleed, which is pretty much all of them as soon as we put these gloves on, All enemies we bleed deal 5% of their max life as Fizz. Now, max life in Delve never stops scaling. So the minions continue to get more and more life the deeper that we go. And let me go ahead and kind of show you what I mean by that. So Delve level scaling. These columns over here on the right are monster life percentage and monster damage percentage. When we get down to, we'll say 500, 737% life on monsters. If we go down to, which is, my goal for this build and this league is to get to 1600. I don't know why. That's just like where I want to get to. Whoa. So if we're using these Splody gloves, that damage scales along with the minion health. So they're really good in mapping. They're like amazing because mobs are so dense. And one day when we are full degen, I will just have 2 pairs. Both of them will have the gems in them, so I don't have to mess with gems. And I'll just swap one pair for the other when I need to. There's also an argument for just rare gloves with, Eater and Exarch implicits that are good, and attack speed and lots of armor, and you get help with resists and max life and strength. There's a lot of good stuff you can do with just rare gloves. I have these on right now because I am trying them out. I do like them. They're fun. They definitely shine and are powerful in certain situations, but also like the ramp up time and the inconsistency with them is very noticeable. And definitely throw on Hemophilia if you haven't yet. They're almost free to buy. These are also really cheap. I want to say one more thing about Soul Ascension that is so important, and really all gloves, because I think these implicits apply to all gloves. Where is my Soul Ascension search? There it is. Your gloves have corrupted implicits that are very good. And this one right here, attacks have plus 7.3% to critical hit chance up to 0.8. That may look like nothing. However, that is your base critical hit chance that everything else scales off of. So you'll see that Shield Crush has a base crit strike chance of 5%, which is almost nothing, right? That's like really, really low. I don't know if there's many gems that are lower than that. I'd be surprised if there were. This is going to modify that number. It's going to make it 5.8 if we get a good one. And then all of our crit chance modifiers scale off of 5.8 as the starting place rather than 5 as the starting place. And that is a really, really big deal. I want to see if I can add that as a custom modifier here. Attacks have plus 0.8% to critical strike chance. That did work. Cool. So let me turn it off. Did that turn it off? Yeah. So we're at 68%, 68.56. Let me look at the calc here. Yeah, 68.56. And you can see the base there. Not totally sure. I haven't dug into that too much. I probably should. But if we turn this on, we go up to 72.73. So really, really strong. There's also plus to level of socketed aura gems, which I may consider as well when we get there. Because like I said earlier, levels to Determination, Pride, and Arctic Armor all scale, the equivalent of more modifier values. So they're very, very powerful. And then you can also get plus to Frenzy Charge on these gloves or any pair of gloves. So important to call that out. All right, we're 40 minutes in. We're getting there. Let's talk about the armor and the helmet. These two are very straightforward. I'll say 2 things about the armor. One is you want tons and tons of armor. I know that's probably obvious, but once we switch to Dream's Feather, armor is really how we're scaling our damage. And if you look at Unbreakable in the first line, armor from equipped body armor is doubled. So that, top number being huge is really, really important. And then, of course, you want resists. There's some crafted modifiers that are good. The implicits I have on here are fine. They're not necessarily the best. You should look at the implicits. I have a sheet that I use frequently that some awesome PoE guru made which lists all the implicits for Eater and Exarch per build. It also lists the benchmarks. So like, do you need to use a lesser or a greater or a grand or go crazy with exceptionals and Maven stuff? So that's helpful. Last thing I'll say about the body armor is that if you have no life modifiers on the body armor, it's a good thing. And eventually I need to get one that doesn't have them, which sucks because I like this one. And I kind of pseudo crafted it and it's really great. However, I'm going to have to get rid of it because of the second option in Life Mastery, which is 15% increased max life if there's no life modifiers on body armor. So realize that no life on an armor is actually better. Trade that prefix for, something better, something that actually increases the defenses or something like that. And yeah, important to realize there. Helmet, all the same things that I said about armor applied to helmet. The only distinction is that in helmet, we really want this Eater of Worlds implicit for mana res efficiency, and we really want this Searing Exarch implicit for reduced mana cost of attacks. Once again, with this spreadsheet, you're able to see the breakpoints for those things. So here's increased mana res efficiency. Here is its probability to roll. And then this is lesser, greater, grand. I think it's exceptional. And then orb of conflict. So it can go up to 12, which is huge. I am probably going to get it up to an exceptional. I'll probably go grand and then conflict it up. I'm not totally sure what the odds are and what the prices are. I'll double check, but I'd like to get it up to 10 on the final helmet that I ever wear. I thought we were done with items, but we really aren't. And oh my God, what is the limit on how long a video can be in YouTube? Maybe we'll find out. We have to talk about flasks. Eventually, you are going to take a leap of faith and let go of your health flask, which I did today, and it was scary, but I think I've only died one time since letting it go, and it was bogus death, I swear. This flask was awesome. Instant recovery on low life is so fantastic. Anytime I was going down, boom, all the way back up. It was like Olros Resolve in PoE 2, but for dirt cheap. But we switched it off because there's too many good recovery mechanisms that you can put onto flasks and mitigation mechanisms for Delve. Right now, these 5 flask types are my favorite, and I'm kind of settled on that right now. And the types are Sulfur, which gives you Consecrated Ground, Diamond, which gives you crit chance, Silver, which gives you Onslaught, Granite, which is base armor, so flat armor, 1500, and then Basalt, which is 20% more armor. Now that is the simple part about flasks. Get those 5, craft on them, used when charges reaches full. Some people don't realize that you can just craft this for 5 and 5. You don't have to take your chances with instilling orbs. And of course, use glass bars baubles to get them up to 20% if you want to. In Delve, it doesn't really matter. They're always up, but it's a reasonable thing to do. Now, where it gets more complicated is when you start crafting the affixes on the flask. You get 1 prefix and you get 1 suffix. In Delve, the best prefix across all of the flasks is gain 3 charges when you are hit by an enemy, because that makes it so that your flasks are always up. If you don't know, you can go to craftofexile.com. You can click on flasks. Where are you? You can hit utility flask, and you can see everything that can roll. But what is more important than just seeing everything that can roll is seeing what item level your flask has to be in order to roll that thing. So in order to roll gain 3 charges when you were hit by an enemy, you need an item level 80 or better flask. And then you'll also want to look at the other mods that you want over here and what eye level you need for those mods. And the TLDR is you really want 84. 84 for resale value and then 84 for yourself. Increased armor is 84. You can plainly see the other ones that are 84, but curse effect is 84. The movement speed modifier actually goes up to 85, which is crazy. And then also when I craft flasks, so I self-crafted all of these. When I self-craft, I resell the ones that roll good that I don't need, for better or for worse. So here's my flask tab. I always have, other flasks that rolled well that I don't need up here. So I rolled a I had an item level 84 flask. I rolled a tier 1 reduced effective curses, which I could only roll because it's item level 84. I rolled reduced charges on use. I don't want that. However, this flask maybe wears a handful of chaos. The base I picked up off the ground, and I only used alts to craft it. So it's a good way to, fund your flask crafting if you're poor like me. So ideally on all 5, you have gain 3 charges when you're hit by an enemy. I have it on 3 out of 5. I still need it on these 2. I'll get back into the crafting shop at some point. I'm not totally sure I'm going to go granite and basalt. We'll see how it goes. I may want the movement speed flask in here. Now, what do you want in the suffix? I'll tell you what I'm sure of. You definitely want 60% increased armor. You definitely want 55% increased critical strike chance. And you definitely want these 2 crafted modifiers. This one is regen 3% of life per second during effect. That is really, really strong. That is not 3% increase. That is 3% of your life pool per second. That's huge, especially in Delve where you're darkness farming sometimes and you're trying to out-regen the degen as it ticks up on you. And then there's this one, which is little known. 15% of damage taken from hits is leeched as life during effect. It's a really, really confusing text. But I think what this is saying is that when you take damage, 15% of that is given back to you at the rate of your life leech, which I think ours is just the default recovery life leech rate right now. Now, these 2 flasks are actually really easy to craft because you can just drop them in here and craft those modifiers right on them in the suffix. And this makes the overall crafting process of your flasks pretty easy. I'll go through one of them right now, just in case somebody is totally unfamiliar with flask crafting. So we'll take this, it's only 83. There's an 84. Oh, wow. That's actually a pretty good flask. It's gain 3 and tier 1 crit. Oh my God, that flask is insane. I literally just ID'd it that way. Cool. I might end up using that one. All right, here's a diamond. Is it 84? It's 84. You got a white diamond flask. Start with a transmute. And you're going to alt spam it. And what you're looking for is either the 3 charges when hit by an enemy or a tier 1 of armor, crit, or effective curses. I also keep an eye out for tier 1s that people might pay for. Now, if you hit a tier 1, which I have the perfect tier 1 right here, which is increased critical strike chance during effect, then you can decide what to do. The prefix I obviously don't like. Increased duration, I don't care about. I could resell this. It looks like it's actually worth quite a bit. However, if I had rolled a 55 perfect crit strike chance, I would actually take an annul and try and annul off the prefix and then use an augment to put a new prefix back on it. Annuls are kind of expensive this league, I think because they mess with Harbinger. They're 10 to 1. Usually they're dirt cheap and it doesn't feel bad to use them at all. But just kind of like an FYI, that's how you make one of the flasks. Now, as you go about making all 5, the last 2 flasks where you don't hit curses, armor, or crit strike chance, you can just craft the extra suffix on them. That's how you get your 5 flasks. Okay. 48 minutes in. I think we can do the passive tree in under 12 minutes and be in under an hour. Let me talk about Pantheon really quick. Everybody asks about it. If you don't have Arctic armor, you have to go to Brine King so that you don't get frozen. After you have Arctic armor, oh my God, I can barely speak. Then you want Lunaris. This is DR for nearby enemies, chance to avoid barrage, reduced LE damage. That's a whole nother endurance charge for LE damage if you've been hit recently, which is always, and you avoid chaining projectiles, which is pretty cool in the blue rooms, I'm assuming, where I see lots of crap chaining. I like Tukahama. The 2% of life per second while stationary is awesome in Delve. You also get 9% additional Fizz DR while stationary. That's 2 more endurance charges. Oh my God, Juggernaut is just ridiculous and so much fun. Those are my recommendations for the Pantheon. I do see some people take the Ignite one. Unaffected by burning ground, reduced duration of Ignite. Ignite is pretty potent on us, but eventually we're going to have 90 max all res rooted in 90 fire. So I think between that and ailment reduction stuff, we should be fine with Ignite, but we'll see. We'll see how Ignite shakes out. Passive tree. There is so much I could say about it, but let me call out maybe 5 things that may not have been obvious to you. and that may be flexible based on what I'm doing versus what you are doing. First thing we'll talk about is cluster jewels. These 8 passive clusters are my 2 favorites for the final form of the build. I may end up going with synthesized ones, like if I get into the really high end of this build, and I will probably end up going with something better than like 4 strength, for instance, on this one. I think the ideal is attack speed, but also even just like helping with resist or something is huge. The important thing is the 3 skills that you get: martial prowess, prodigious defense, and vicious skewering. It is going to put these nodes in a certain order based on the skills that are listed in the jewel. And if you're like me, then at some point in your life, you bought a jewel that you thought was the right one, but it wasn't the right one. So let's talk about how to avoid doing that. Here is my search for a cluster jewel. If you've never set up one in the trade site, it is so annoying to do. You have to set up so many things to get the exact one that you want. But here's some important modifiers. An enchant of added small passives grant increase attack damage holding a shield. And then an enchant of adds passive skills, set it to 8 and 8. So that way you don't get a cluster that is something other than 8, which will scuff the amount of points you have to put into it in order to use it. It looks like these ones are all 8 anyway. Then you need your 3 skills: martial prowess, vicious skewering, prodigious defender. And then down here, we went with martial prowess, veteran defender, and vicious skewering. And this is for resists. The other defender is for block chance, spell block, and attack block. So that's kind of what's going on there. My attack block is already maxed, and I talk about how I'm going to increase my spell block using this, divining on this shield when I get the Foulborn version, and also on the base jewels, which can roll spell block while holding a shield. The skewering here I'm going to get with my next 2 passive points. I'm going to come here and here, and that is going to, I think, yeah, it's 10%. That is going to overmax my chance to impale to hit 100. So that's a big deal. The 2 cluster jewels are important. That is how to search for them. They're actually a lot cheaper. They were 3 div when I bought them earlier in the season, and these ones are 1 div, and they have an open affix. Here's 1 div with cold res. Dang, I might go out and get new ones of these with better modifiers, or maybe there's some that are corrupted or something, because these can be corrupted and then receive an additional modifier on them or an implicit. So it's good to know. Other things going on here that I really want to call out. I have a whole video on how to find the right timeless jewel. For me, the thing that matters most is this gain 1 rage on melee hit. It so happens it's on savagery, and so I am wasting a point coming right here, kind of. Sometimes I'm using frenzy charge. This is not a total waste, but I wish it was like over here. This is max life, max fort, fizz extra fire, which is useless, and then 20 fire of res, which is not useless. I probably would prefer to have rage on hit. Max life is fine. Max fort is not very good. So we might go more res, or chance to deal double damage, or crit multi, or crit chance. Those are all possible. But yeah, ideally we're just using these 4 nodes, and we're looking for those modifiers, and this one is the required one. Other thing to call out is, again, IMR, which is increased mana res efficiency. I am at 66 mana left on my pool, and the cost of my shield crush is 16 and 6. So that means I can cast roughly 4 shield crushes without any regeneration of mana, and it's totally fine. And in hideout, you can see that my mana regen, just my base mana regen, keeps up with the shield crush for a very long time before it finally runs out. So with leech and other effects, I'm totally fine. I'm just chilling with that amount. However, I have reduced the mana cost of attacks on this tree. I do that right here. This makes it cost life instead of mana. That gets my shield charge down to 1 life. This is IMR. And then I'm also coming up here. I'm taking more IMR. Aura's having increased effect, which is very helpful at 10%, hits a few breakpoints. And I'm taking more IMR, more increased effect here. And then Reservation Mastery for a +1 to max all res, because we are reserving life for precision. and then mana for our gems. There is a node which a lot of people will take, and it works depending on how your build is set up, and then it maybe doesn't work if your build is set up differently. And the node reads that if you have armor on your gloves, armor, helmet, and boots, then +1 to max all res. I'm not sure where that lives. That's life and mana. Arrgh. There it is. And I'm actually wasting a point right now because I'm trying out Soul Ascension. Soul Ascension does not have armor, so this does not work. But yeah, realize that armor mastery is there. Make sure you get this endurance charge, and this endurance charge, and this endurance charge. You're crazy if you don't do it. Also realize that if you get into more darkness farming, there is base % regen that I am not taking. Right here is almost 1%. That is big. Here's a lot more armor and life. I may end up respecking this over to here in the final form of the build to get more of that max life. Like a cozy pool would be like 4.5k, which is much of that regen as we can for darkness farming. Make sure you've got the rune graph for the Sinestral, 10% more attack speed with offhand. It's a really big deal. And in mapping, I come here and I turn these on. And I come up here, I mentioned this earlier, and I take off Unbreakable and I spec Unyielding. This maxes out the area of effect of our Shield Crush, which is awesome, cozy quality of life for mapping. This tree is at level 95. All the quests done, of course, for passive points, and that's kind of where we're chilling. Okay. I think I've covered everything. I don't think I'm going to do gameplay features all that much here. I will show one delve sequence, so that way you understand like how I'm fighting delve. And I'm not like a delve expert, but I am becoming a delve expert, and I'm going to make a beginner's guide to delve that is concise and helpful as soon as I feel like I have, all of the variables of delve understood. Okay, so I do keep this up while I delve. And this is one of the mods that I really watch out for. Monster Damage Pens Ellie. That's a scary mod for us. Very scary. Always keep this up and see what mods are running in there, or toggle it on and off and check it out. I'm at 284. It's pretty cozy. It does seem that like if I screw up, death is possible. But basically what we do is we are shield charging through, parking it, and then we're generally sitting in one spot and shield crushing with a little bit of movement here when things are detected. I'm going to leave Blood Rage off for this whole sequence, so that way you can see the dual regeneration of Energy Leech and life. Sorry, Energy Shield and life. I can hardly talk, man. This video's long video. Darkness farming looks like this. Here's some darkness. You go in, drop a flare, do your thing, and get out of there. I find Shield Crush or Shield Charge and Frostblink to be really good for that. There's one of those mana guys I talked about earlier. Alright, so we'll come right here. See this big blue thing? That thing does a lot of damage. Watch out for that thing. You'll see a debuff over here when it's on you. Our multi-strike auto-targets. You can see that my mouse is just chilling in the middle. I'm auto-targeting everything. You can see my life and energy pool both depleting and replenishing at the same time. And that is the magic of Emperor's Vigilance. All that extra text that you never noticed is on Emperor's Vigilance. That's what's going on there. And once again, I'll say that if we turn on Blood Rage, we just lose all our energy shield eventually, and it does not come back. So, yeah, huge caveat there. Mapping with this build is fantastic. People have discussed in the Discord strategies they're doing with mapping. Basically, anything where you stand still and deliver is going to be awesome. I ran Ritual today for a couple of hours and printed off of that. The build is really good with it. Stack your AoE and attack speed for mapping. You'll have a great time. All right, everyone. I'm going to cut this off before an hour, which is in 20 seconds. Thank you, everyone, for the collaboration this season. I'm having a great time. I hope you are having a great time. I'm going to carry this build into its final form, and I'll probably do one more video on the build when I get to that form. And yeah, let's keep collaborating. Come join the Discord. Thanks, everyone.